Every 6 hours, a woman is murdered in Brazil, simply because she's a woman. Despite tougher penalties, femicide and other violence against women is becoming more frequent. The perpetrators are mostly the victim's partners or ex-partners. Those who survive often suffer for the rest of their lives.
All I remember is that he pointed the gun at me, then shot me right here.
Often survivors have to fight for justice, and for many, fear has become part of everyday life. Can a protection patrol help reduce violence against women? For 11 years, Christiane Gomes lived in an abusive relationship. She was trapped in a cycle of aggression, fear, and hope. She still bears the scars from her partner's abuse.
I experienced violent attacks. He gave me a black eye, punched me in the ear, pulled my hair until my head hurt, and kicked me in the stomach. He was so aggressive. I knew my situation was dangerous, but I never expected that one day he'd shoot me.
8 years ago, after an argument, Christiane was in the bathroom when her then partner shot her in the face at close range.
All I remember is looking at the floor and seeing that it was covered in blood. I even thought about pretending to be dead because I was afraid he'd keep shooting. All 3 of my children were there. They were paralyzed with shock. They weren't crying. It broke my heart.
At the time, her twins were 8 years old and her youngest son was nearly 2. After the attack, her partner fled. Christiane spent 4 days in an induced coma, followed by 2 weeks in intensive care. Her survival is considered a medical miracle. Even after 8 facial surgeries, she still finds it hard to look at herself.
I really miss the way I used to look. Sometimes I talk to God and say how much I'd love to be the way I used to be. That's why I have hardly any old photos. I prefer not to look at them.
Her sons return home. It's extremely emotional for Christiane because they've just spent the weekend with their father. After the crime, he was caught and sentenced to around 13 years in prison. He's now served about half of his sentence. For the past year, he's been let out of prison for leave every few months.
The first time he was released was a shock. He wanted to see the boys. So I decided to take them to him myself, alone. That was a big challenge. I told him that our 3 children had to be able to live their lives in peace, without fear.
It's a stressful situation for Christiane, but she tries to avoid any kind of conflict with her ex-partner, in part because he may soon be granted early release from prison.
I just want him to leave me alone.
She needs all her strength to raise 3 boys. She's practically on her own, with little support from their father. They live in a small rented apartment in Sao Paulo. Christiane shares a bedroom with the children. She often has to leave the kids home alone while she rushes from one job to the next, between the suburb of Osasco and the city center. She works in a pizzeria on weekends, in the finance department of a company during the week, plus stints as a nanny in between. That gives her a monthly income of around 4,500 Brazilian reais, or around 700 euros, barely enough to make ends meet.
I'm often exhausted and mentally drained. I also don't feel like I'm treated fairly. Sometimes I lock myself in the bedroom and stay there for hours or even a whole day, and then I find myself again. At those times, I seek my inner strength and try to be completely at one with myself. Meditation heals me every day and gives me the strength to live, to be here, to keep going. I know that a lot of people don't have that privilege.
Last year alone, nearly 1,500 women in Brazil died from similar attacks. That's the number of official femicides, or women killed because of their gender. Most of the perpetrators are partners or ex-partners. For a long time, these crimes were referred to as relationship crimes. Since the term femicide was introduced 10 years ago, the number of victims has been steadily rising. More and more women are applying for protection from the state. To find out how this works, we've come to Duque de Caxias, near Rio de Janeiro. It's one of the first cities in the country to introduce a women's protection patrol. This unit is part of the city police. It's named after Maria de Peña, an icon in the fight against domestic violence. The unit checks whether protective measures such as restraining orders are being complied with, explains Patrol Chief Neuseli Pereira.
Our mission is to prevent these women from becoming victims of assault again. They've already been attacked and reported the incident. We want to prevent them from being attacked again or from becoming victims of femicide.
Every day, 2 patrols drive around the city to meet with victims. Many of them waited a long time before reporting the violence and applying for protection.
That's because of fear. They're afraid the man will become even more aggressive, that the violence will get even worse. Shame is also a factor. And they don't know what might happen in a worst-case scenario. At school, we don't get taught how to react when we're attacked. Women simply don't know what to do. They don't even know where to go or who to turn to. They think they're alone and no one will help them.
The patrols look after around 1,300 women who've experienced domestic violence. When the danger is acute, they make house calls every day. In other cases, they only visit when necessary. Today, they're checking on Fernanda. She tells us what she's gone through in her relationships, from aggression to death threats. Time and again, she's forgiven the men who abused her.
In the end, I was abandoned while I was pregnant. Not only that, he threatened to cut open my stomach and rip out the baby if I didn't have an abortion. I said, I will not have an abortion. It's a cycle that repeats itself because when I was 10 years old, my father killed my mother in front of me. I've experienced violence since I was in the womb. At 37, I'm still experiencing it.
Fernanda has a degree in security management. Driven by her own life story, she wants to study law and become a judge. She has a protective order against one of her ex-partners, but she's worried he'll show up at her home again.
These are all police reports.
Wow, and he was arrested once?
4 times. What about my protective measures?
They remain in effect.
For how long?
As long as you're afraid and try to collect evidence, photos, videos.
I'm not going through that again.
But don't put yourself in danger. You have 2 children to take care of. Retreat is also a strategy. You can rely on the patrol. We're here to protect you. This will not happen again. Do you have faith? I do.
Neuseli proudly tells us that, to date, there hasn't been a single femicide victim among the women she looks after. She helped establish the Maria de Peña Patrol here 9 years ago, and she's built a strong network.
The most important thing is that we empathize with the women's stories and understand that they don't just need safety, but many other things too. We have to recognize their needs and connect them with various support centers that can help them.
Ingrid, tudo bem? Tudo bem, bom dia. Bom dia.
Ingrid has been part of the protection program for around 7 years. Apart from the patrol itself, hardly anyone knows her address. She's still afraid of her ex-partner. She tells us that, for years, he abused her physically, emotionally, and sexually.
You haven't heard from him since?
Things have calmed down a bit lately.
How secure is the area around your house?
He's been here on the street. We're always afraid.
Do the children go to school?
They go to school as normal, but we take precautions. They don't play alone in the yard. I always take the car when we go out.
Increase the prevention measures. If you need us, we're here for you.
After so many years, the patrol practically feels like family.
They helped me with everything. Every time I felt threatened, I called them. When I started my new relationship, they were the first people I told. They were at my wedding. They're my angels in uniform. If it weren't for the Maria de Peña patrol, I might not be here today.
Ingrid isn't able to simply enjoy family life with her children and her new husband. She's afraid to leave the house, which makes her feel trapped. Even so, she's immensely grateful she was able to escape the cycle of violence. The Women's Protection Patrol works day and night to achieve positive outcomes just like this.
It shows how important our work is. It gives it meaning. It's wonderful when a woman who's experienced this kind of violence is able to take control of her life again, when she doesn't give up and doesn't get intimidated.
The team spends the night at Duque de Caxias police headquarters, where they're based. They're always ready to respond to an emergency call. It's a dangerous job. Bulletproof vests are a must. Last year alone, around 600,000 emergency protection measures were approved for victims of domestic violence in Brazil. This acts as a deterrent to prevent violence. If a perpetrator approaches his victim despite being ordered not to, he can be arrested even without committing another attack. More and more women's protection patrols are being set up across the country. Neuseli's unit serves as a model, and a local study shows how vital the work is.
The most important things a woman can do are report an incident and request protective measures. In more than 90% of cases where women have died as a result of femicide, they never reported a single incident. In other words, silence kills.
Carolina Magalhães was also silent. The lawyer from Belo Horizonte was killed on June 8, 2022. Her sons believe that her then-partner murdered her. Vitor and Lucas Magalhães describe the couple's tense relationship.
They broke up several times.
He always pushed for them to get back together. And he did it in a way that was kind of sick. He followed her, showed up at her work, sent her emails. She had blocked him everywhere, so he started sending her emails.
She didn't tell us everything that happened in the relationship. She tried to sort everything out on her own.
They reflect on a happy childhood with their mother, who raised them practically on her own.
We always did the Eskimo kiss with each other.
Since their mother's death 3 years ago, they've been living with their grandparents. The close-knit family runs its own law firm, where 40-year-old Carolina also worked. This tattoo of his sister keeps her brother Damien motivated. He's determined to continue searching for evidence that she was murdered. Her brother says that over the years she was with her partner, she became increasingly withdrawn. But after attempting to break up with him, she began reaching out to friends once again.
She exchanged these messages with a friend right after her last breakup. He's going to be mean to me now and try everything to hurt me somehow. I have to ask my guardian angel for protection. Her friend said you should never let someone else control your life, especially when they use threats.
Carolina's mother, Maria Agnes, tells us that many details of her daughter's relationship are only now coming to light. Despite some warning signs, no one thought it would end the way it did.
Only one time did I suspect violence. I saw a mark on her neck. I asked her about it, but she didn't want to discuss it. Because whenever they got back together after a breakup, she would think that everything would be fine, just like he promised. I think she only realized at the end that his behavior wasn't going to change. I think that's why she tried to break up with him for good on the day of her death. And he didn't accept it.
We drive to Carolina's old apartment. Damien shows us the place where his sister died. She fell from her 8th floor apartment. The initial police investigation suggested suicide because Carolina's partner claimed he left the apartment before she fell. But the family never believed him.
The balcony's safety net was cut open horizontally in an oval shape. The hole was just wide enough for a body to fit through horizontally in a lying position. And very close to the bottom of the net, right by the railing, they found a strand of her hair. That suggests that her head was in that spot, that she must have been lying there.
Carolina may have already been injured and could have been pushed off the balcony while unconscious. The family believes that her injuries and the condition of the apartment suggest that her then partner was responsible.
With all the evidence gathered that night, including signs of a struggle, like a broken wine glass in the bedroom, they should have taken him to the police station.
The day after the incident, Carolina's brother looked at the complex's time-stamped surveillance video. The couple arrived home at around 7:30 p.m. These are the last images of Carolina's life. Shortly after 11 p.m., she fell. Her brother says that only then did her partner take the elevator down.
The recordings suggest that he was in the apartment at the time she fell. That was easy to verify. If the police had taken the trouble to check that on the night in question, he would probably have been arrested on the spot.
Instead, it took more than 2 years for Carolina's ex-partner to be put on trial for femicide. In court, he denied the allegations and questioned Carolina's mental state. Our own questions to him went unanswered. It may still be some time before a final verdict is reached. An unbearable situation for Carolina's family, especially her sons.
The worst thing is seeing him walking around free. He killed our mother, and he's living as if nothing happened.
We don't live in the Stone Age. We have ethics. We have laws. Men do not own women. We want justice. Not revenge, justice.
In recent years, laws in Brazil have been tightened, and there are harsher penalties for femicide. But not all perpetrators are brought to justice. Increasingly, there are campaigns calling on the population to report domestic violence. Studies show that one of the main problems is what's known as machismo, a culturally ingrained sense of male superiority. Neuseli Pereira from the Women's Protection Patrol in Duque de Caxias believes that the problem has to be tackled early. She and her colleagues visit a different school every week.
It's an adult topic, but it's very important for you. Did you know that most women who were victims of femicide were killed because they said no? They said, I don't want to be with you anymore. Do you think that's okay? No. Our protection is preventative, but it works very well. No man wants to be arrested. When he sees that the woman is being protected by a patrol, he leaves and stops harassing her. That's why we depend on the help of those around us, to report incidents, to talk to victims, to refer them to places where they can get help.
Despite tougher penalties, the number of attempted femicides has more than doubled in the last 5 years.
The prison sentences have gotten longer. But when someone wants to commit a crime, they're not thinking about that. That's why I think prevention is the best approach. Punishment alone is often not enough, because by then it's already too late. We want to prevent it from happening in the first place.
Survivors of attempted femicide often have to deal with the consequences for the rest of their lives. Like Christiane Gomes in Sao Paulo. Her doctor, Carla Goes, specializes in facial reconstruction.
You can see the difference here. This is exactly where the bullet entered. It fractured these bones and caused the facial injuries. That's why this side is drooping. It went in here, and there are the fractures.
For the last few months, Cristiane has again been experiencing pain in the side of her face where she was shot. Here at this private clinic in Sao Paulo, the dermatologist and surgeon treats domestic violence survivors free of charge.
Often the attacker deliberately targets the face. He might stab her in order to rob her of her dignity, to brand her, break her, and leave her excluded from society. These are extremely painful scars that mark the face forever.
The doctor treats Cristiane's facial swelling and her scars, but she says another major facial surgery is needed. Cristiane's body seems to be rejecting the metal mesh that holds half of her face together. It will be her 9th surgery, a grueling road toward recovery.
It's very painful, not only physically but also emotionally. It's taken me a long time to get where I am now. I've managed to get used to the pain and tension. But whenever I'm about to have surgery, it all comes back.
The emotional wounds also run deep. Cristiane is part of a victim support group that meets once a week at the Institute of New Perspectives. This NGO was founded by her doctor. Here, survivors can not only get help with a new appearance, but also other kinds of help, including legal and psychological support. After her attempted femicide, Cristiane learned about private and government-run assistance programs. Like the others here, she lives with both fear and hope.
Dealing with aggression used to be part of life, but I didn't say anything about it. Colleagues I worked with for 4 years had no idea I was suffering from violence. Because if they knew, they'd say, "What are you doing with this guy? Break up with him." But it's not that easy. So then you shut yourself off out of fear.
When you're able to leave a damaging environment and you're taken in, given support and listened to, it gives you the strength to not return to that situation.
When we come together like this and share our experiences, we realize we're not alone.
Studies show that almost a third of all Brazilian women have experienced domestic violence. Psychologist Juliana Carvalho sees machismo as one of the main causes.
Machismo is passed down from generation to generation. It becomes increasingly entrenched. If I learn that my father attacks my mother, beats her, insults her, and humiliates her, then what other role model do I have to stop me from doing that to a woman?
Despite government awareness campaigns and tougher legislation, Cristiane says there's still a long way to go. Even when a perpetrator is finally convicted, he's often released from prison early. She worries that that's what will happen to her ex-partner.
It's so easy for them. They attack a woman, beat her to death, or shoot her in the face at close range, which would normally be fatal, but in my case, God wanted me here. And at the end of the day, nothing happens to these men. That's not right. That's why I'm fighting for this cause now, not just for my own sake, but for all of us. I'm going to fight to make things better. It's no longer just my fight, it's a fight for all of us.
Cristiane is one of an increasing number of women in Brazil who are daring to speak out against domestic violence. They're finding strength within their community and demanding protection from the state. That's often the only way to prevent further violence, so that it doesn't end in femicide.